areas. We are going to cover 3 areas. That is impacts of positive youth engagement. That is one area we are going to be covering today. And the second area is the power of networks. And the third one is the continent's readiness for youth leadership at the local, national, regional, and also continental levels. How are the various governments ready for youth development? How are the various institutions, how are the various stakeholders ready for youth leadership at their own level? So those are the main 3 areas that we are going to be covering. And I'm very sure, and I hope by the end of this session, you will have understood, and also you have many points to pick and take home from each of these areas. Those are our panelists for this session, and these are the people who are going to be taking us through the session. We have connecting all the way from Ethiopia. We have Neftalem Fikre, who is a Mandela Washington Fellow 2019, and also the founder of Youth Skills Empowerment. Neftalem, just say hi to the team.
Hi, everybody. It's an honor to be part of this meeting, and I know we're going to have a very productive day. So,
thank you very much, Neftalem. We are really happy to have you this evening, and we hope you are going to learn from you. Next, we have Apollonia Muendo, Diulengani Muendo, connecting all the way from DRC. Come on, Apollonia, say hi to the team.
Hi, everyone. I'm very happy to share with you this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Apollonia, and we are happy to have you this evening for the session. And we also have connecting from Uganda, Stephen Katende. Stephen, say hi to the team. Stephen is a Queen's Leaders Awardee and also a fellow. Stephen is also the founder of Kisoboka Africa. Stephen.
Hi, everyone. I'm very happy to be here. My name is Stephen Katende from Uganda. Looking forward to the discussions.
Thank you very much, Stephen. And then the two wonderful ladies who have done that this evening. Thank you so much for joining us and being with us. Edith Kemunto. Edith is a policy advocate and also the current program officer at Imara Fellowship Program. Edith, say hi to the team.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to join in this meeting. Thank you so much, Ruben, for organizing this.
Welcome. Thank you so much for being with us also. And then finally, the last and not the least, we have Senan Kanana connecting from here in the country, Kenya. Senan is a gender activist and also a youth advisor and mentor. Senan, say hi to the team.
Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, and I look forward to learning and sharing a few things with you. Thank you, Ruben, for this opportunity.
Thank you, Sanan, and each and every one of you for joining. And I hope the participants are going to learn a lot from each and every one of you and take away home. So, as I said, as I had mentioned, we have these areas that we are going to have. And actually, I'm just going straight away and start from the first one. I would just like to hear from starting with Edith. What are your views when it comes to the impacts of positive youth engagement? But before I invite Edith to take us through, I would like to ask you as a participant, kindly make use of the chat button. If you have questions that you want to ask, kindly just click on the chat session and ask the question there. Then as we come to the Q&A session, then we are going to ask the panelists the various questions. Thank you very much. Now, back to our panelists. What are the impacts of positive youth engagement? If organizations, institutions, stakeholders, governments, if they happen to engage young people in various social development activities. What is the impact that is expected? Let me hear from Eddie.
Thank you so much, Ruben. I am very happy to contribute to this, matter. For me, I would say that there are very many benefits that you would, get out of it. For example, first, it will help in the change of attitudes towards young people, and involving them will assist to reduce conflicting or dissenting voices. The youth have been said to be disruptive, which is a lie, really, because the youth are a useful resource for any country and now our continent. We are facing a situation where the youth are really the majority of the population. So instead of, putting them away and having lots of conflicting voices, this is a chance to include them and have one voice. Including the youth voice in conversations also promotes innovation. The youth are known to be very, very creative people, and therefore it assists to add, creativity to the conversations. It assists to add innovation. Most of the youth are tech savvy. It brings so many, solutions to the table through what the youth can do. It also shapes conversations regarding, other younger people. As the youth advance, there are children behind them. So speaking to the youth or including their voices in the table also changes the focus, just from, the normal, and also diverts focus to, the children, other younger people. It's important to bring the youth or add the youth voice to the table because it assists to, share the views of all the young people. It also facilitates stronger communities and future leaders because, even as you include the youth voice on the table, you're able to listen to a larger majority in the community, and therefore you're able to, shape a stronger community. You're able to grow impactful leaders, and you have to shape a voice, you have to grow a voice from the young people, even as they grow older and even as they take up further, conversations, more meaningful conversations, as they move from, just actions towards policy, then you're able to bring up a meaningful youth voice. Thank you, Ruben.
Thank you very much, Eddie. I'm really happy to hear from your sentiment, and I'm very sure the participants are noting all this down. I would now like to hear from Senan on the same. What are the impact that are expected when young people are involved or they are engaged in the various social development actions? Senan?
Thank you very much, Ruben. To echo what Edith has said and to just add a little bit on it because she's really well articulated it, you see, positivity is contagious, just like negativity. So whenever the youth are engaged in positive engagements and positive meetups, so many good things come in. And like in Kenya, we call the youth 18 to 35. For me, this is the age where our brains boils with ideas and we are always thinking of things to do and ways to change different aspects of the society where we see injustices, for example. So whenever youths come together and we are speaking in one voice, if it comes to entrepreneurship, even if you're not interested in that kind of business that is being spoken about, someone else in the team will pick that up and go and make it a business, for example. I also have an example of Dr. Mercy Mwangangi, our CAS in health, in the Ministry of Health. A few months ago, before the pandemic, we didn't know of her. But when the pandemic came, she has really handled this pandemic really well. And she's given the youth a voice and courage that you can face anything and you can be a champion in whatever docket you're given, as long as you're very passionate about it and you're willing to use that as a vessel to change. So what I would encourage the youth mostly is to just be out there, go out there and grab these opportunities because they'll never come to you. We have to really speak in one voice, engage positively, because we know there are so many other negativity and negative things that the youth are engaging in. But we've seen people who are changing the world are people who chose to go the positive way.
Thank you very much, Senan, and I like that example that you have just given about the Kenyan CS, Ministry of Health. We will be getting back to that just to have more elaboration on that. Thank you very much. I'd like now to hear from Apollonia, all the way from DRC, on the same. Apollonia, do you have something that you want to add on that particular subtopic? Apollonia, if you can hear me, we cannot hear you. Kindly unmute yourself. Thank you. Thank you very much. You can start, just start again.
Thank you for the floor. I am very glad because the two ladies have almost spoken everything about the youth positive engagement. As I was saying, youth positive engagement is the only way for development in our societies. Because when youth are not only energetic and powerful, but they are the first beneficiaries of the actions that are had in our society. So when you want to do something for a group of people, the best way to deliver the good solution is to include them in the process of making it. So when we have young people engaged and positively, we'll have the result of our social development. I think that is it.
Thank you, Hapo. And I don't know now whether Neptalem or Katende have anything to add on that subtopic. Katende, do you?
Yes. Thank you, Ruben. The challenge of speaking last is that people have already exhausted the points, but nevertheless, I think I want us to first, agree that youth constitute majority of the population in Africa, and it can be a challenge, but also an advantage if handled well. And talking about the impact of engaging young people, I look at sustainability. Sorry, I may offend the older people that are on this platform, but I look at youth as people who can take on the programs, the good programs around after our elders have retired. And if they are not involved, then they will not know what to do. I'll give a very small example of Indians here in Uganda. They involve their children in their businesses, their shops. And these shops have been around for over 30 years. But you realize that for some of the businesses, especially for Ugandans, when the owner dies, the business collapses because the children are not involved. So I look at sustainability as a very key point in involving young people at all levels. And also, I believe that people who are facing the challenges are the best people to work with to find solutions for those challenges. So as we constitute majority of the population, we face a lot of challenges. There's high unemployment, and I believe if involved, the youth have the best solutions on how, some of the challenges they face can be solved. Edith said youth are very innovative. They could bring on their ideas that can help create jobs for other young people. And even also when you involve youth, it reduces the dependence syndrome that is a very, very big challenge that we have currently in Africa. I personally work in villages, and today morning I've been in field and I found a family and 7 children are home. You know, some of these have even finished college, but they don't have jobs. So they are all depending on, you know, their parents, their caregivers. So the dependence syndrome is very high. And as a result, development becomes quite hard. So if we involve youth, if we create jobs for them, if we involve them in policy making, they will find solutions to the challenges they face, and in the long run, it will reduce the dependence syndrome that we have. And as a result, development of the country, the continent, and different communities will occur. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Stevie. I like the way you put it, that, you know, young people need to be involved if an organization or if a government or any other institution is looking for sustainability. I like that point, and we are going to come back to that point. But just before that, let us hear from Neftalem, connecting from Ethiopia. Neftalem.
Yes, thank you. I think everything that needed to be said has been said, so I think we can move on. It's fine.
We can hear you, Neftalem. Just to
Okay.
go ahead.
Okay. No, I've just said that everything that needed to be said in this area has been said by my colleagues, so I have nothing to add on this. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, thank you very much, Neftalem. Now, just uh, just to reiterate most of these points that these panelists are giving, we would like to hear from you as the participants. What exactly would you add when it comes to that particular subtopic? That is the impact of engaging young people in social development. We would like to hear from you, but we will come back to you later on the session. Now, let us go back, go to the second point, or rather the second subtopic of the power of networks. And I would like to hear from the panelists, starting with Neftalem, the power of networks. What exactly would young people supposed to do to build sustainable networks, to build valuable networks that are going to give them positive engagement when it comes to social development?
Okay.
Neftalem.
Yeah, I'm on. So thank you for this question. You can hear me, right?
Yes, yes, we can
Okay.
hear you.
So just to elaborate on what I do, I actually work on addressing youth unemployment. What my organization does focuses on creating livelihood, right? So livelihood in a sense of self-employment for youth, but also if youth want to be hired in companies, we work on building up their skills. Why I'm talking about that is it's in direct relations to what you just asked right now, which is networking, right? So when it comes to addressing unemployment for youth, just after building up their skills, the second step is networking. The problem has always been the how about, right? So how do you actually network with people? How do you actually meet the right people? This is in regards just to employment. I'll go to the other sections later. So as you know, unemployment is a major factor because our youth are hindered by two main elements. One is the culture. So our culture doesn't actually build up the youth's confidence, right? And networking is all about confidence. It's about believing in yourself. It's about believing that you can achieve anything. So one thing I've realized working, especially in Ethiopia, but also engaging with my colleagues in a number of countries in Africa, is that the youth are not empowered, firstly, socially, right? It's changing, but for a long time it hasn't been. So the youth are not really engaging as much as they can when it comes to going out and and engaging with people who could hire them, for
Neftalem, sorry
example,
for cutting you
right?
short.
So that's one thing.
Neftalem,
Not just in attaining your, I think Edith and when it comes to attaining your rights.
your network, we are losing you, but now it's okay.
Okay,
You can just go on. We were losing you.
okay,
Mm.
okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so as I was saying, networking is very important when it comes to employability, but also networking is very important when it comes to youth and attaining their rights. So, to whom do you meet? Which civil societies do you engage with? But as of right now, I rather just focus personally on addressing unemployment and the importance of networking in regards to youth. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Neftalem. I would like also to add on that, but I will just come back to the same later on during the Q&A session. Thank you so much for those insights on the same. I would like now to hear from Apollonia Duligani. Apollonia.
Thank you again, Ruben. I think the power of networking for social development. Networking is not in Africa where young people, although they are creative and they are powerful, but we don't have skills. So this is where networking becomes important. When you see in Africa, like young people, they all want to start business. Maybe they don't have resources for paying all the services. So this is where networking becomes important. I would like to talk about my own experience. As these days I'm working for a cultural center where I'm in charge of the media and communication and cultural department. So what we actually do, we have a recording studio. So every day we welcome many young artists, those who have many beautiful songs and educative songs, but they want to record them. They don't have resources, not only resources for paying for the studio to record, but resources for paying the musician. So now what we do for them, we we select, we know this artist is good maybe at playing guitar. That other one is good at doing this. So when someone comes, then he needs another person for playing guitar for him. We say, okay, as you have a good voice, then you can help singing in someone's song. What we do, you will give your services of playing guitar to this one, and that other person will sing for you. So networking is a way for young people in Africa to overcome problems. And it is also for exchanging culture, because the big problem we have, as Neft said, is the culture. When you are coming from some regions of Africa, there are things that you don't actually know, or that you are not even allowed to do. But when you are now, you have to do some other things. This is where networking comes important, because we collaborate to meet new people and we gain new skills and knowledge. As they say, like, together we go far, alone you go fast.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much, Apollonia. And I like how you gave an example of about using yourself on how you have gotten uh, valuable networks, or rather how you have built yourself valuable networks using your job position. It is very good that whenever somebody gets an opportunity, they use that particular opportunity to build sustainable network. But now, again, we are going to come to those insights later on. I would just like to know whether Hedib has something to add on that particular point. Edith?
Yes, Ruben, thank you very much. And thank you to Neftalem and Apollinaire who come before me. I think on networking, what I would say is that networking, if used well or if used meaningfully, is always elevating, always elevating. So first of all, there are so many benefits to networking. It will assist you to, have greater information, have access to people who have more information than you. If you're in business, it will assist you to get a larger market. And just to add on to what Apollonia mentioned, for a long time, it was perceived that networking is very expensive. You have to find a way to get yourself into a round table discussion, or you have to find a way to get into a networking event. Yes, that still works now. But, using technology, it has become so much easier, so much faster. Go on to LinkedIn, go on to Twitter and try and connect with people. Even here on this Zoom platform, really, it is a chance to connect with people that, matter or are able to put mentorship. Because, one of the ways to network is to have a mentor and have a mentee. I always say, if you have a mentor and, somebody is sewing in you, then you have else up as you come along. And so, in terms of mentorship, if you're mentoring someone, don't just give them, your time to speak with them. Also introduce them to the people that they need to meet in order for them to get ahead. It is very important to assist people to collaborate in these ways, because really collaboration is the future. And networking is really one of the most invaluable skills you can ever have. It is very necessary. It is very, in a world where we are influenced left, right, and center on Facebook, on Instagram, all we see is, influencers. We really cannot ignore this very important aspect, or this very important skill. We must learn to network. So thank you, Ruben.
Thank you. Thank you, Eddie. I like the way you put it, that collaboration is the future. And actually, I would just like to add on that, because when you say collaboration is the future, I'm very sure what you mean is very many organizations in the coming years, they won't be able to function without partnership. And actually, goal number 17 of the SDGs, it talks about partnership for the goals. And that is the last goal, the bottom line, that every other goal will not function without partnership. And partnerships always come from networking. Thank you very much that for your insights, Edith. And I would just now like to hear from Senan. Senan, on the same, do you have something to add?
Of course, I have something to add.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is a very personal topic to me, because I always believe my network is my net worth. And I have in various forums, I've said this: make sure that your networks are intentional. You network in intentional ways, so because at the end of the day, you know what you're looking for. And I'll give a small story if I have time. Currently where I'm working, I went for 3 interviews, and on the last day of the interview, when I was done, I was asked if I knew anyone in the organization, and I said yes, I knew one of the senior managers. So the senior manager was called, and she was asked if she knew me, and she said yes, I know Senan. We went to university with her 10 years ago. So she was asked, would you hire her if you were in my position? And she said, if you're looking for someone who has great networking skills, then I will take Senan. And I left, and an hour later I was called, and I was told I have gotten the job. So probably she didn't have anything to influence the decision, but the fact that she gave them, even if they had doubts, the fact that she gave them that one thing that they needed for that position gave me a go ahead to get the job. And you remember, the last time we met with her was 10 years ago, because she was ahead of me in the university, but we lived in the same hostels for 2 years. So apparently she remembered the kind of person I was in the hostels, the kind of person I was in the university. So as we continuously interact with people, as we continuously connect with people, make sure the kind of image you're living, the kind of connections you're living, are you someone that people want to say, I want to associate with this? Whenever you're posting stuff on Facebook, for example, about gender, about youth, about women empowerment, whenever people want to bring a forum like this, are you that kind of person that people want to say, I want to give Sen an opportunity to be a panelist. I want to give Edith an opportunity to address people. So for me, make sure your networks are intentional, both for yourself and for the people that you're meeting.
Thank you. I love that insight. Thank you so much, Senan. What actually Senan is saying, whenever you are building a network, you need to be very careful what kind of a person you are while you are engaging other people, because your engagement with other people is actually where now your worth will come from. They will remember you for the kind of a person you are from the engagement that they have had with you. Thank you very much, Senan, for that insight. I know Neptalem has something to add, but before Neptalem, I would like Stephen.
Yes, thank you, Ruben. There's a famous African saying that if you want to go fast, go alone. And if you want to go far, go together.
Okay.
And for me, that has always been my motto, because putting myself as an example, I started Chiso Work Africa in 2016, and we didn't get any external funding until 2019. So for 3 years, we ran the organization without money, but we ran it on networks. I remember I have so many like Kenyan friends who supported me with policy document. So we put all policies in place without necessarily using money, but from the networks, I have built over time. And then I remember we also ran a children's program and we wanted a financial literacy curriculum for children, and it was quite expensive to go one. But again, used my networks, connected with a friend who has an organization that has a curriculum like that, and we partnered. They gave us the curriculum, and we are now using it. So I would say that networks can take you places you've never thought about. When I had Senan talking about how she got a job because someone said, if you want a networker, she's the one. And I look at myself on how I have, moved places. For example, last year, I have seen Dr. Dan. Last year I was in Qatar for some summit, and they contacted me because of the network. Someone just wrote to me that, hey, there's this organization that wants someone, and we think you're the right person, just because of the networks I've been building over time. So to young people out there, do not fear to reach out to people. And the funny thing is that we always think that we are nagging people by asking them for support, but people are genuinely willing to help. So for me, the power of networks cannot even be like explained fully in such a short time, because networking is so much powerful.
Thank you, Stephen, for that. That network is not really a question of whether young people need to build sustainable networks. It is a very vital requirement that they need to do. Thank you very much for your insights. And this particular subtopic is actually deriving a lot of interest from the participants. There are a lot of sentiments from the participants and a lot of questions. So I would just like to place this because Neptune was trying to answer this particular question from Lavender. I would just like to place the same. Lavender is here saying that it would be getting the youth in platforms where they can actually network, because it is impossible to network if you don't get a seat at the table. So what are these platforms that young people need to know about, or they need to engage themselves in, so that they can build sustainable networks? Nephthalem?
Okay, thank you. Just to answer his question, go find the seat, right? Or make the seat yourself. I think that the youth have to understand that there isn't going to be an ideal thing waiting for you. So we can't, of course, as my colleague Edith was saying, you can go to your social media, you can go to your LinkedIn, events. There are a lot of apps that are events based. You're free to join, so you join it and then you see which events are taking place. Most of the events are free, so you can actually go there and participate. But in the end of the day, it's up to you. You really have to not just find out where it is, but you actually have to bring your own chair, nudge it in, and make yourself a place right there. Because the thing is, I think a lot of youth have to understand that these places are not
Nephthalem, we are losing you. I'm not very sure about your
they're not
network.
going to come to you. You have to go to them. So saying everyone is active on social media. If you take your time, you can actually find out where these companies are them on social media. Hello? Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, go.
Hello? Okay. Okay. So that's my thing. Just one thing I wanted to add on that. Edith already mentioned it, but networking is all about branding. Okay, this is very, very important. As an individual, you first have to brand yourself, right? You really have to internalize about who you really are. It's only after you brand yourself and know yourself, then you can go on and meet other people and network. If you don't take your time to know yourself, where you are, what you want, if you do not know that, when you go try to network with people, they can actually sense that, right? So they're not going to be very forthcoming towards you, okay? But if you know yourself, you brand yourself right, you know what you want, they can click from that. That's number one. Number two, just to add on to what Sanan was saying, a little trick that I found out, okay? When you go to people and you network, if you're always looking at what you want from them, you're not going to get a hear back, okay? They also want something from you. It can be something very small, but something that you want to give back. So my advice is, because I'm an entrepreneur, right? So if you're into business, especially, you want to be an entrepreneur, my advice is, when you go talk to these people, these big CEO people, right? And you ask them for their card, right? When you write the next day, of course you can't, provide them money or whatever, right? But you can actually provide them with a customer, right? They will appreciate it. If you can engage with them, you get their card, and you get one customer to get in touch with them, they will remember you. But if your network is always about what do I want from you, it's not going to work out, right? So it has to be a kind of a two-way stream. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Nephthalem, for that, for those insights. And just to add, because I can see somebody else asking the kind of the same question. Calvin's is asking, is there a right audience to network with? And also, Agatha is asking, how can I build my networking? How can I build my network? And I will just tell you just those two questions, and the third one here from Wilson. I will answer those questions. I will add what Nephthalem said. Nephthalem said that you do not wait for somebody to create a table for you or to bring you on the table, but rather you create your own table. How do you do this? How do you create your own table, your networking table? And I can tell you that for sure, you attending this webinar session, you are already creating your own table, because through this webinar, you are actually going to network with young people who have the same interests and passions like you. The same way how people are going to attend physical sessions. We have so many physical events that happen, and they are for free of charge, but most young people do not attend these events. Why? It is because they are not maybe motivated enough. But using these events, you are able to create a network that actually is going to value you, or rather to impact you in future. So whenever you go to these kind of events, kindly do not just sit there and listen to the speakers. Raise up your hand, get noticed while you are having that particular tea and buffet. Make sure that you get to know people, introduce yourself. That 7 minutes kind of pitch yourself. Who are you? That is how people get to know you. And just as Neptalem was talking about the social media on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, do not just talk about anything in your social media handle. Make sure that you have a consistent content that people can notice you with. And that is how you continue building your own table when it comes to networking. And we are going to come back to that because I can see this particular topic is actually driving a lot of interest from the participants. We are going to come to that during the Q&A session. So let's just go to the third subtopic of this session. And here we have the third and the last subtopic, the continent's readiness for youth leadership. That is at the local, at the regional, at the continental levels. Are the governments of this continent, that is the African continent, are the governments, are the leaders, are the institutions, are the various stakeholders, are they ready for youth leadership? And if they are, how can they include, or how can we have inclusive youth leadership when it comes to African leadership? Let me start with Apple connecting from DRC. Let me just hear your sentiments about the same.
Yeah, thank you, Ruben. As I would like to go from what Nephthalim said, because it is true in Africa, in our countries, the system is not really leaving space for young people. Maybe they are now trying to understand we need young people because of the development of technology, which only young people master. So you will see now in the offices, all people will need us only when it comes to things they cannot manage. Or they should really need us at the beginning of everything. So as Neff said, instead of waiting for them to set up the system that leaves space for us, let's now try to go and make that space for us. Maybe making them understand why it is important for them to bring us around the table. Or let's start to unite. This account, I'll go back to network. So if young people are united, will be so powerful that space will automatically be given to us. But when young people cannot even unite, so even for us to participate, it will be tough. Now I will go back to what I was doing, I think 2 years ago, when I was working for another organization where we're doing youth civic and political participation. It was about equipping young people with skills that they need for them to participate. It was a good experience in 2018 when we had elections in the DRC and Zimbabwe. I had to work with young people in political parties on how to use effectively social medias for them to get to vote and to influence voters. Why? Because when young people were running for elections, they all had to go from the same line with people who call like old people. And those people are old, they have resources, they have money, and they have experience. So when it comes to campaign, like for elections in Africa, of course, I don't encourage people to do politics like that. But for elections in Africa, people vote for those who buy t-shirts for them, for those who maybe bring some salt, some rice, or maize or whatever. And young people don't have money for that. So what we're doing is to develop strategies for young people to be campaigning on social media, because elections in Africa, you need to go from urban and rural areas, and young people don't have cars. But the people they need to vote for them are maybe far from where they are. So how they can use social media to get vote. But from that we said, it is not only about youth vote for youth, but it is about youth voting for young people who are capable of doing the work they are expected to be doing. So what we're doing, before we even go to elections, we're now training young people who are candidates. This was mostly for people who were good at politics, because I was only on that technology part of training them to use social media for them to campaign and communicate about their vision. So I think the action should be, we should first have actions as young people, then propose them to decision makers, so that they understand and they consider us and make together the space around the decision making table. Our societies are not ready for that, but progress are being made, because now when you see even in our government there are young people, in the parliament there are young people, it means that something has been done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Apple. And I like the way you are trying to describe the relationship between governments and its people, and how governments can have inclusive kind of leadership that is in engaging and involving young people. Thank you very much for that. I'm very sure questions will come about the same during the Q&A session, and we are going back to get back to that. Now, let me hear from Stephen about the same. Stephen?
Thank you. For me, I think Africa generally is not yet ready for youth in leadership. I'll give an example of myself, be it political, social, economic. I feel as a continent, we are not yet there. I'll first give an example of these international conferences. There will always be a side event for youth, to discuss their ideas and then present a paper to the elders, if I would say. Why wouldn't they sit on the same table with the so-called elders? Why must they have a side event, discuss their ideas separately, and then bring them to the table? That only shows that, as youth, we are still kind of sidelined. Last year, I was somewhere and introduced myself as a founder of our organization. So when we were having break tea, an old gentleman approached me and asked whether I was really the founder of the organization, whether I didn't have someone behind, an invisible hand that wasn't seen, that was pushing me. He didn't believe that, I could start an organization. That was very disappointing, because, given the efforts I have put in, given the efforts I've seen other young people putting in different initiatives, it was disappointing. Then I would give a brief example. Currently in Uganda, we are in a political season. Elections are next year, and a lot of young people have come up to, contest in high positions, members of parliament. Some are even aspiring to be to take the highest position, the president. And when you hear what people are talking about to them, like, these are young people. This is a young guy. What is he going to do? He will just take weed. He will just do this and this. All that shows that we have not yet embraced the culture of understanding that young people are also capable. Young people can come and make good leaders. So I feel as a continent we still have a lot to do, because just a sample of presidents in Africa, how many are 40 or 40? Many are 60, 70, some are even 80, and they are not willing to leave very soon. When even you look at their cabinets, I know several governments where a minister of youth is above 70. So what is he representing? So as a opponent, we still have a lot to do, and I feel it's everyone's responsibility. Maybe there is also something we as youth are not doing right. I don't know, but each one of us needs to check ourselves and see what we can do better so that we can embrace youth leadership.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Stephen. And just to maybe ask Senan if she has something to add on that particular point.
Okay, thank you very much for my fellow colleagues who've spoken before me. I would also tend to see this question as a two-way question. We are ready and we aren't ready, and I will give my opinion on that. The continent is not ready because like we've seen and like we've heard from Stephen, so many governments are led by very old elderly people who should be at home retired and taking care of their cows. So you find that they have put even the ministers of youth ministries as very old people. So we as the youth now, and you know, governments are the face of countries. They are the face of institutions. So if these institutions are not seeing any example to follow, being the fact that governments are led by very, very old people, then they also have nothing to as a litmus test for that, for example. So if it starts from the top, where governments, where presidents, where ministers, and key decision makers are young people, then it will have to trickle down because these people are more energetic. We know that the elders have very much wisdom according to African culture. They are known as the wise men and all, but they can be on the side giving us the advice as we run these shows, as we implement these policies and bring on board our creativity and innovativeness. But then again, where I'm saying the continent is not ready is where you see these opportunities to run these dockets, but instead of them outshining themselves and delivering, you find that we have this culture where someone is given this job and they say it is my time now to eat. So you find that this culture is something that we have a long way to go before we are done with it. And for me, my advice would be, let's not wait to have these seats at these tables. Like Neftalem said, let's create our own innovations, our own organizations, and run them so perfectly and so innovatively and create a lot of impact that these people in government and these people in these other decision-making setups are able to ask, who is that running that organization? And from there, you will find yourself automatically in these tables, influencing change and influencing policies. So for me, it's up to the youth, like Stephen is saying, let's look deep into ourselves. If I'm a youth advocate, if I'm a women advocate, what am I doing in my own small circle, in my own small space to really impact change, such that when I'm given this bigger docket, I will go there to impact change and not just to earn the money and to earn the fame.
Thank you, Senan, for those sentiments. I would now like to finally hear from Edith.
Thank you, Ruben. Once again, the challenge of speaking last, a lot has been said, but really, just to circle back from what my colleagues have already said, that you see, when we have the statistics of our African leaders at presidency level, having most of them over 55, it really translates to a gap between those that decide or those who, make decisions on policy and those that have to share in the consequences. Because, again, the majority of the people are the youth. So if those that decide on the policies are not within the bracket of those that are the majority, then it means there's a huge gap there. However, what we have seen, just on the positive side, while those statistics may be a bit discouraging and may show that Africa is not ready, we have seen an uprising of young leaders in very many sectors, whether it is in the civil and political engagement sector, whether it's in sexual and productive health and rights, whether it is in environment, whether it is in conflict and peace building. We have seen young people coming up, placing themselves at the table, and providing solutions, taking up positions and tackling problems. We have seen young people coming out and being the voice, agents of change. That is what many young people love to call themselves. They are agents of change. And for me, it is really, really encouraging, because if there's anything that I have learned having worked in this youth field, it is that leadership is not taken, it is not given, it is taken. And so you have to get to a point where you tell yourself, this is the problem that I am seeing, this is the gap that I am seeing, and I have the potential to collaborate with someone else, or come in all together to fill in that position. And that really is what leadership is about. As John Maxwell says, that a leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. Really, this is where young people, we have to come to ourselves and tell ourselves, look here, it is time. We have the solutions within us, we have the solutions among us, and therefore we can bring these solutions to the table. Yeah.
Thank you. Interesting insights from Edith. I really appreciate that, and also that particular quote that you said, that a leader knows the way, goes the way. And actually that is some part where young people are failing, that we know what we need to do, we know what we are supposed to do, but actually we are not taking the step to implement these actions that we know we need to do, but we are not taking the step. So I can add more on that, but because of time, let me just now look at some insights from the participants, some comments, and also some questions. They are adding a lot. This is now deriving a lot of interest. We have somebody, Dan Musinkusi, is actually talking about how the education system, the African education system, is limiting young people when it comes to maybe leadership engagement. And this maybe is true or not. We would like to hear from you, panelists. And also we have Calvins. Calvins is talking about whether the youth themselves, whether the young people themselves, they are actually ready for youth leadership. Maybe we are talking about the minority, that is the guys who are above the age group of youth. We are asking whether they are ready for youth leadership. But again, are the young people themselves, are they ready for youth leadership? That is another area where we are going to hear your sentiments on. But before that, I would like to hear from Neptalem. Neptalem has something to add on this particular point. Neptalem?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to say that when we talk about African youth, let's look at it this way. Let's look at North Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa. North Africa, I believe, has done an incredible job when it comes to empowering of the youth, right? So we've seen recently, as Edith said, of Sudan, which was a real push by women and youth that brought the change. We've seen in Tunisia, we've seen a lot of women not only being placed in parliament, which has been the case in most Sub-Saharan African countries like Rwanda or South Africa, but they are actually engaged and they're actually decision makers, right? In Tunisia and Morocco, right? So, but in Sub-Saharan Africa, we're not seeing the same rates. And I think the reason is because internet, right? Social media. So if we look at Northern Africa, internet accessibility in most countries is 80% and above, right? With the exception of 5 countries in Sub-Saharan Africa, with like Kenya or South Africa, which have very high internet capacity, like in my country, Ethiopia, is 15% in urban areas. Rural areas, forget about it. So lack of internet and lack of social media hasn't been helping us able to actually engage as a youth. to be heard as a youth. So we think that we're alone, but we're actually many, right? That we're many in a sense that many to actually stand up for our rights. But if we don't have social media to engage, we don't know our strength. So we're not seeing a lot of people coming to a leadership position, or we're not seeing a lot of social leaders in sub-Saharan Africa, not because they don't exist, but even if they do, we don't have a platform to actually, broaden them up. Whereas in Northern Africa, because of high level of internet connection and uses of social media, they're managing to actually become mobilized, right? So that's one of the main things I wanted to talk about. And just to add on quickly to the questions I asked about education, realistically, education or lack of it, quality of it, lack of quality education will always be a problem in Africa for a certain. When it comes to leadership, or even when it comes to employment, if we have basic education, at least, right? Even if university is not the top-notch education that we want in Africa. Can you hear me? Okay. After high school, one can actually take courses online. They can actually, if there's no internet, can actually go to these libraries. And at least for a short amount of time, you can look into gig economy, which I really hope the youth will look into it. Gig economy in the short term until you find permanent employment or self-employment, right, could actually help you make a living. And for gig economy, you don't go through a good educational system, right? So you have to be flexible. You got to think outside the box and think about what can I do within my environment to be successful. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lem, for those sentiments, especially on that education area, how education is limiting most of the young people in taking over leadership in the African continent. I'd just like to hear from Stephen, because Stephen is involved with education sector. Stephen? Stephen? Okay, maybe Stephen maybe disconnected or is having a technical difficulty. We are going to find out from him later on. Let me hear from Apple on the education. Do you think that the African education system is limiting most of the young people when it comes to being engaged in leadership around the continent?
So, thank you, Ruben, for the question. I think the education systems that we have, I will talk about the DRC, my country. I think they were designed by colonizer so that to make African useful for some work, not really for leadership positions. I think I would express it very good if it was in French, but it's English, so I will try to tell you. When you see in countries like DRC, where people spend 5 years or 6 years in university, and all this year what they do, they are studying things, or they are actually studying things that you no longer use in the society. And they spend 5 years in the university. They start school from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. Then they are very tired going back to the house to prepare for going to school again tomorrow. I think Africans should sit and see the needs that are in the societies and what kind of people we should train for resolving the problems. Like in Congo, people are so good at speaking French. They can speak, they can write many good, very beautiful French texts and whatever. But when it comes to actions, you see people really miss many skills that they need on ground. So we should redesign our schools, sit around the table and see what we need and what people should learn. Then people will be like when they are still at the school of the past, but they need to work at the present. So this is impossible. Because when they are out of school, they still need internship, they still need to be trained. To me, school is not really helping. So we need to sit and redesign the education system in Africa, in Congo exactly. I don't know more for the other countries.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Apollonia, very much for giving us actually a tangible experience when it comes to the education system that is noting on how it happens there in DRC. And Lavenda here is actually on the same. He's talking about how the education system is all about passing exams, and also it is about passing specific knowledge without allowing room for kids to develop their own skills or creativity. And on the same, I would just like to add on the same kind of example, there was a time when I was in Rwanda, and it happened that the friend that I was visiting, she has a kid in standard 4, or rather grade 4. And this kid actually, that particular day when I was visiting, she came and she was so happy that she had won elections. You can imagine the schools had carried out elections and she had beaten, or rather she had defeated a class or a grade 5 student to represent the block in the student council. And this actually got me interested on how they do it. And one thing I asked her is, how did you defeat your fellow student, or rather, or how are the best students elected into the council? And she was talking about that the students who are elected are the ones who do not bully their fellow students. They are the ones who do not lie to the teachers. That is integrity. They are students who do not cheat in exams. That is another way of assessing integrity. And I was looking at it, comparing it to our Kenyan education. And the only time that we have elections in learning institution is in the university. And I'm sorry to say, but most of them are very chaotic. And actually, there is nothing that these students get to learn from the election. So it is very important that during curricular activities, we also have these students learning how to assess leaders from the way below at grade 3, grade 2, and also grade 4. As by the time this young student gets to be an adult, they already know that integrity is key into leadership. And that way, maybe we are going to have better leaders when it comes to the main general election. This is just my own additions, and I would just like to hear from the participants, from the panelists, finally, on this particular topic on how young people, or whether the African continent is ready for youth leadership. There is a question that was passed here by one of the participants. Is asking, that is Calvin's, is asking whether the young people themselves are ready for youth education. And I would just like to start with Eddie, before I go to Stephen Katende connecting from Uganda. Eddie, what do you think when it comes to young people themselves? Are they ready for youth leadership?
Yes, I would say that the young people are ready for youth leadership. I see when we work with the fellows at Imara Fellowship Program, I see how they provide solutions for the counties which we work in Kericho and Busia, in Kisumu. They propose solutions, recommendations that can be added by the Senate to the county policies. And so I see that, yes, when well equipped, the young people are ready to take up these positions. They are ready to, tackle community problems, because I mean, they live in these communities. They experience these problems. They know where the shoe hurts or where the shoe pinches. there are those that we refer to as vulnerable. So surely, if they really understand the problem and their capacity built to be able to work out this, work out solutions for these problems, then why shouldn't they be given these leadership positions? I do believe that young people are really ready to take up. I mean, the systems are already in place. It is possible for young people to take up these positions, and for us to have fruitful leadership. The other thing is that and here now I just want to speak about like transformative leadership. Transformative leadership is where both people work together, whether it is the young and those that are more experienced. Yes, the young people may lack a bit of experience, but with guidance from those that have already been in power, with guidance from those that have already been in authority, we can right the wrongs that history provides for us. So I think, yes, the young people can be given these positions, and it is possible for us to have transformative leadership coming from the young people. And I really just want to celebrate and congratulate organizations, programs, institutions that are trying their best to grow young leaders, to add capacity to the young leaders. I just want to acknowledge all of the efforts that have been put together to ensure that youth are really ready to take up these positions. And for sure, kudos to all the youth that are stepping up, whether it is through vying for political positions, whether it is through trying to be leaders of their sectors, whichever sectors that they're in. Even my fellow panelists, I want to celebrate Stephen with his organization in Uganda. That is a form of leadership, and we see that his organization has tremendous impact. Nephthalem in Ethiopia, building the skills of very, very many young people. I think I just want to celebrate those that have come out, to be able to put their skills on the table, and also the organizations, institutions that are supporting these young people. It is time for the youth. It is no longer the youth are leaders of tomorrow. The youth are leaders of today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Edith. You have really lightened up the mood even more, celebrating all of us when it comes to leadership, and we really appreciate that. And on behalf of all the participants during this International Youth Day, I'm very sure they feel appreciated by those words. Thank you very much, Edith. And just to add on that young people, they need to take up the positions, that they need to believe in themselves. They need to be confident. They need to believe that they have the skills and the ability to take over leadership positions, whether it comes to institutions, in organizations, in projects, in government, and also elective positions. They can do it. I do believe myself, and also as just Eddie mentioned, it is possible that you are able to take up a leadership position. Now that you mentioned about policies, Eddie, you mentioned that the policies are there, but the young people now, they need to take the chance, that they need to get engaged in leadership. On the same, I would just like to hear from Stephen Katende on what are some of the policies or interventions that governments are enacting or are trying to implement, or that they need to implement, so that participation and engagement of young people in social development is more recognized and it is more driven. What are some of these policies and interventions? Stephen?
Thank you, Ruben. I think governments need to introduce inclusive policies that favor young people. For example, I told you we are in a political season because elections are near. And for someone to contest for member of parliament here in Uganda, they have to pay around, I think, if I turn it into dollars, around $800. I mean, that's quite a lot for some of the young people, because the young people have just left, for example, university, and they have been in leadership positions at campus, and they have all the qualities to be community leaders. But because of the large sums of money that are required for you to contest, it becomes quite hard to to contest. But also, I think the governments are kind of trying to put in place policies that would support youth development, and in the long run, they may, be able to beat some of the structures that hinder them. For example, in Uganda, we have the Youth Livelihood Program, where the government provides some kind of capital to youth groups that we can use to start businesses, initiatives, and pay back over time without putting in interest. I mean, that kind of, if utilized well, it may help. However, the challenge is that most of these policies that are brought on board are, they involve a lot of corruption. Again, accessing that money, you must bribe, you must pay something to the officers who are responsible. And the funny thing is that you find that people who are managing the Youth Livelihood Fund are again above 50, above 55. So I would say the governments are trying, but they still need to do more. Because in Uganda, we also have youth representatives in parliament. But the question is, can every youth be able to, contest given the funds that are required to just get nomination for that? So I feel the government needs to do more in order to involve youth at all levels.
Thank you, Stephen. That governments and institutions and other stakeholders, but there is a lot that still needs to be done, that the young people are engaged and involved in leadership. Just like Edith had said, that the policies are there, but now Stephen adds that there is a lot that more needs to be done, because just existence of policies doesn't mean that the same policies are being fully or effectively implemented or put into use. So Stephen now is saying that although the policies are in existence, that we need governments and institutions and other stakeholders to make sure that these policies or these interventions are put into place effectively and engaging and involving young people. Thank you very much, Stephen, for those insights. And I'm very sure the participants have questions on the same, but I can see already they have written several questions here. And actually now, that brings us to the end of the main session, and we now enter into the Q&A session. And at this stage, I will just check some of these questions that the participants have already put across. I will just curate several of them and read them out for you to be able to take us through. We have around 20 minutes for this session. The first question I would like us to tackle: how can we engage marginalized youth to engage, or rather to involve them in social action? Because at the end of the day, when we say that we are engaging young people, there are so many young people who are still marginalized in such a way that they are not able to access the various platforms, the various activities. Actually, some of them do not even feel the impact of these policies and systems we are talking about. So this marginalized youth, what can we do about them? And this, I will start with Sanan. Sanan?
Yes, Ruben. The question of marginalized youth really gets deep into me, because I would start by saying so many people, especially in the rural areas in Kenya and in the deep places further away from the towns and the counties headquarters, you will find that so many people are not aware of anything that happens in terms of policies, in terms of laws that are governing them. They are not aware of anything. First of all, because they do not have access to social media to even read on it. They do not have access to the government policies, and the government administrators are not even on the grassroots. And I will give an example of an event I held last year. It was an event on zero teenage pregnancy, and we went deeper into the rural areas because this is where these other issues come up, and you find them getting all the vices of this world. For example, you find them because of poverty levels in these regions, they end up engaging into sexual activities, and education for them is not a priority because in the first place, they have no mentors to look up to. So one thing I can say from the experience of these events that we held was that these youth in the marginalized areas are very thirsty and hungry for information and to want to make their lives better. They kept asking us, you've taught us this and you've trained us on this, but what advice would you give us to becoming better people and even ending these cycles of poverty and getting away from these places? So you find that if these people were given the opportunities that are really set out, because when governments are creating policies and creating laws, they are created for everyone, not just for the people who are educated or for the people in the urban areas. So for me, I would say, first of all, to be able to engage these youths, let's have more people trickle down there, because then we cannot keep on relying on our governments and institutions to be able to go there. What I can say is let's all try. Personally, what I do, I try going back home and going back to the villages and enlightening them and educating them on what is there. And one of the ways that I do this is by understanding them and listening to them. Asking, I think there's someone who has noise. If we can be able to mute them.
I have muted them. Go on, Sana.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so one thing we should do that I personally do is seek to understand them, ask them what are the challenges they are facing and what they would like to do to be able to, for example, if it's about poverty, if it's about entrepreneurship, ask them what personally you would like to do, or what is your dream, what is your vision, and then educate them, give them materials to read, give them things to read, because we've also seen people from these marginalized places coming out and excelling in different spaces because of the mentality that they set out when they were beginning to seek and become hungry and thirsty for these things that they want to achieve. So, for example, if we all wait for the governments to get to the rural areas, the marginalized areas, it's really taking a long time. And I believe we don't have a long time to keep on waiting. So what can the youth really do? The youth that have gotten the exposure, the youths that are running their own organizations, the youths that have had a little interaction with the social media and other continents, you'll find that these youth in the villages, in the marginalized areas, they are really hungry and thirsty, like I'm saying, but they don't know how, they don't know where to even begin. So for us to be able to really help them, let's understand them, let's help them through maybe education, give them knowledge of what they can do, hold their hand and walk with them. And truly, I believe we can always help them get out of those situations. Because even with the county government and the devolved governments, we expected that these policies, I would say the cake, the pie, they would get a share of the pie, but it's taking long and long. So it's up to me, it's up to you, it's up to every youth that has had the light to go back to their villages and really lift up the others.
Thank you, Sanan, for those insights. And just on the same, that you mentioned that the youth may be in the marginalized regions, and I am very sure that there are organizations that are working on these regions on social development. We also have the government projects in these particular areas. We also have many other stakeholders that they are involved in various projects, in various activities in these particular regions. And I would just like to hear from Edith on that particular period, point. These institutions, these government projects, these stakeholders that are working in these marginalized regions, what can they do so that they engage the young people from these regions?
Thank you, Ruben, for that question. First of all, it is important to just realize that the youth as a demographic is a very broad way to describe a huge population of people. So we have urban youth, we have rural youth, differently as would wish to refer to, like a way for governments, organizations, and youth serving actors working in areas where we have marginalized youth is first of all to find them in their own communities, find them in their youth groups where they gather together. That is where you need to find them. And first of all, start your programs or your policies or whatever interventions you have with the just with the realization that this stakeholder you want to call the youth is really subdivided into very different types of youth. A youth at 35, a youth at 18, those are very differently divided youth groups with different needs, different capacities. And so once you are able to recognize that these are the type of the youth that we want to reach, then you have to try and find them in their groups where where they are gathering together as youth from a particular community or youth from a particular region or type. Find them in their groups and try and look for representation, so that once somebody comes in, they're able to or willing to bring in the others. So build capacity purposefully or intentionally. You have to ensure that you cater to those that we sometimes leave out, because inclusion is really leaving no one behind. And I think that is one of the best definitions for inclusion that we have had in this day and age. So basically for governments and organizations and youth serving actors, classify the type of youth that you want to get, and then find them in their groups, find them in their cocoons, and then bring one by one, have the representation that you need on the table.
Thank you very much, Edith, for those sentiments. And we have really mentioned the table a lot of times, and I'm very sure the participant would like to know how they are going to create their own tables. And just as Nefti mentioned there before, that people will need to stop waiting for the table to be created and for them to be brought on the table, but actually to create their own tables. Thank you very much for those sentiments, Edith. And I've actually realized that I had put across most of the questions from the participants' chat room, and right now that is the last question that I was put across. I cannot see another question here unless another participant does so. So before now we actually wind up, I would just like to know whether you, the panelists, one of you or two of you, have anything to add on all the sentiments that we had discussed since the start. Anything that you can add before we wind up? And I can actually see somebody by the name Mercy Nduko. Mercy is a former classmate of mine. When we talk about networks, the last time we met Mercy is more than 20 years ago that I met with her, but we have always been in touch. She's in South Africa currently, and she's connecting from South Africa. Mercy, I would also like to hear from you. I know you are a young leader, and I know you have done so many youthful projects in South Africa, and would like to hear from you finally. But before then, I would like to hear from Neftalem. Neftalem, I can see your hand up. You have something to say, Neftalem?
Yeah, just to add on, I don't know if we've moved to what government should do in regards to policies, or is that coming next?
Thank you, Neftalem, for that. Yes, I'm coming back to you. I'd just like to hear from Stephen. I can see Stephen wants to say something. Stephen?
Thank you, Ruben. I wanted to say something a bit about education. I think, our education system is still kind of too theoretical. Giving myself as an example, I think, considering my education, I think the turning point was the first fellowship I attended, the Building Tomorrow Fellowship after university, where I got, real hands-on mentorship from my then manager, that turned around everything. So I think the education system may take some time to change, but as youth who are empowered, what are we doing, to support those other youth who have not gotten just like us, to be mentored, to be empowered? So that's one of the reasons why I decided to work in the villages, so that I can pass on these skills and the networks I have to young people deep in villages who didn't get an opportunity like me to be exposed, to get the skills, to boost their confidence and so on. So as young people, I think it's our responsibility to pull other young people who have not gotten an opportunity like us to be where we are, or even better than where we are. Otherwise, the education system is kind of failing us, because you find a student who has finished university, he or she has scored A's, but cannot express themselves in a group of 15 people, and it's upon us, to support them, build their confidence, give them opportunities to speak, expose them to all these opportunities online, and then with time, things will change. So that's what I wanted to add.
Thank you, Stephen, for that addition. And I'm very sure the participants are getting a lot from all those insights that we are sharing. I would like to know whether there's any other panelist who has something to add. Senan, do you?
Yeah, maybe to just add and maybe finalize on my part. It's now or never for the youth. So you don't have, you can't keep waiting and saying you're waiting to be a minister, you're waiting to be a member of parliament, you're waiting to run to be a CEO of this great organization. You have to start now, and you have to start where you are. You have to start with the networks that you have. And the best thing now that we have great internet, for example, in Kenya, you can do anything on social media. Start your initiatives there. Seek people to support you, and in fact, you do it once, you do it twice, you do it thrice, and people will now want to come in and support you. I can tell you currently, people I don't know always go into my inbox telling me, I need help in this, I am organizing this forum, I need help. And like Katenda is saying, I have nothing to lose by lighting someone else's candle. So what I do, I just give them all the insights, I give them all the advice I can, and if I can't even attend these events, I do that, because I know it's my responsibility, and it's the responsibility of any other person in my position or in bigger positions or even lower positions to be able to hold each other's hands, because that is the only way we can move further and create a greater impact in this world.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that motivating words from you. Let me hear a parting shot from Apollonia from DRC, just parting shot. Apple. I don't know whether Apple is experiencing some technical difficulties. Now, finally, before parting shot from Edith, let me hear from Neftenem. You have something to add when it comes to government policies. Kindly do so and give us your parting shot. Nefti?
Okay. All right. Thanks. I'll make this quick. Firstly, I would say it's government policy go rural. That's the way I see it. One of the things is with government policies in Africa, the urban elites who are giving us feedbacks. But if we actually governments should also listen to the rural youth who are the majority is number one. And number two, also engage with them so that there's problems coming from the rural youth, not just the urban or urban. That's the number one. Number two is about policies in regards to advocacy and in regards to youth civil societies. Governments in Africa have to make it easier for youth advocacy groups to get their licenses, to get their fundings, and to be youth advocacy and using sub-Saharan Africa. So I think that's one of the one they should tackle. The third point is having policies that are measurable and attainable, right? So one of the problems we're having with most governments in the world, especially in Africa, is that we're adopting all these major global policies like SDG, measurable, or is it attainable? Forces look at their policies and come up with youth policies attainable. Right? And number four, make this very quick, is connected to the point I just made, is decentralizing policies. Because when you decentralize, you also hold people accountable.
Naptalem, we are losing you in a big way.
When policies are made, it shouldn't just come from the central element, given to regional areas to come up with their own policies, so that when it works out, they get the credit. But if it doesn't work out, they also take risk. All different actors who are involved, also to hold them accountable. I'm done. I don't know. Okay.
Thank you, Naptalem. Although we lost you in a big way, when we are talking about governments creating conducive environment for young people to actually be engaged when it comes to social actions, one of the ways is actually governments enacting stable internet connections around the country. And in Ethiopia, Neptalem is experiencing a lot of technical issues when it comes to its internet connection. Apologies for that. We hope next time that Neptalem will have a stable internet connection. And finally, we are come to a close of the session. That was the last parting shot. And just as I had said, I would just like to hear a parting shot also, and also maybe our views from Mercy. I don't know whether she's still here with us. Let me see. Mercy Nduku, connecting from South Africa. Mercy, can you hear us?
Hi, greetings everybody.
Hi, Mercy. We can hear you loud and clear. Thank you.
Great. I'm going to just off my camera because I'm in a busy place.
It's okay.
But just as concluding remarks, it was interesting listening to young leaders from the African soil alluding to policy and intervention that leads to youth inclusivity. It's quite a challenge. At the moment, 14% of sub-Saharan African youth, that is youth in the age cohort of 16 to 35 years, only 14% of them sit in our parliaments. That's where policies are debated and interventions are debated and things are rolled out for us, the young people. I want to thank you, Ruben, and the organizing members for this. This is a session that will bring our minds together and brainstorm. And I want us to think also of, in terms of skill sets, do we have the trending and the globally competitive skills for us to be able to compete globally? Think of trending words like STEM, science, technology, maths, and engineering. How are we prepared? How is the education system that we get? How does it prepare us to that? For example, if you look at the curriculum in South Africa and in Kenya where I schooled, you'll find that it's a colonial type of education system where we trained to be technical people and laborers and not managers and not people who are equipped with leadership skills. I want you also to think of, I want to give a case of the South African scenario whereby you find that the Black kids were educated in a Bantu way and the white kids went into white type of schooling. I'm not trying to throw racist comments here, but when we go to the workplace, you find that a white child is trained to be a manager, but a Black person is trained to be a technical person in the workspace. And this brings a lot of social inequality in terms of even the wage gap. And this stays still to be a great challenge for us in Africa. Think of now the most romanticized words like Afro-optimism. What is this? It's the state of absolute conviction that the bright future stays ahead of the African continent with the biggest number of the young population sitting in Africa. This is a word that is being used currently to brain drain Africa. So what my concluding hashtag would be youth must raise, and we must raise, and we must raise from Azania to Cairo. We must equip ourselves with the skills that are needed, and we must claim our space before other people come to claim our space. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mercy. Those sentiments are really enlightening, and actually, we wish actually we could have more time to continue with the session, but because of time, this brings us to the end. And actually, I know this is not the end, or this is not the last session that we are holding, that we are convening young people around the African continent so that we can have various discussions. Many others are coming up because obviously we can never exhaust everything that there is to say when it comes to engaging young people on social development. And we hope very soon we are going to have more of other sessions. I'd now like to take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you, starting with the panelists. Thank you so much for taking your time and sharing your valuable ideas with the participants. Asanteni sana, that is Swahili for thank you. And for the participants who are finally here with us, we started with a high number of 85 participants, and I can now see we have around 65 of them who are still here with us. And I would just like to maybe mention a few. Thank you so much, Scholastica Barina, for being with us this evening. Thank you so much, Winnie Gare. Thank you so much, Nati Isaren. Thank you so much, Z Cocktail. Thank you, David Odiambo. Thank you, Becky Olo. Thank you, Nati Isaren. Thank you, Miss K. And also, thank you, Onyangol Moses. And also, maybe you have to mention Ibs Iradukunda, connecting from Burundi, one of us that is the early alumni. Thank you so much for joining us. And also Juma, I saw you that you tried to join back. Thank you for joining us this evening. Maybe I've not mentioned your name, but again, Asante Sana, that is meaning, that is Swahili for saying thank you for joining us. We can continue the engagement and the conversation over on Twitter and maybe other social media platforms. You can always use the hashtag HiYD2020. Up to the last of this week, we are still celebrating young people for International Youth Day. So use the hashtag HiYD2020. Also use the hashtag youth engagement in SD. SD is social development. You should also tag us, that is Ajiri KE, at Ajiri KE. Ajiri is AJIRYKE. And also, you can also tag as our partners who made this possible at Numera Consult. Thank you very much, each and every one of you. I say, may you be blessed and may you have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sawa sawa.
Thank you, everyone. Be nice catching up.
Ruben, did you say we should not leave? We wait.